Today, the Ferguson police chief asked for peace. This comes after 3 nights of clashes between police and protesters. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jim Reek.
And I'm Brittany Pieper. The strife comes after a police officer supposedly shot and killed an unarmed teenager over the weekend. Jenna Hanchert has the latest from Ferguson.
Police in riot gear are patrolling the streets night after night in Ferguson as this community on edge struggles to cope with the aftermath of the police shooting of unarmed teen Michael Brown. Further inflaming tensions, a policeman shot and critically wounded a man Tuesday night who authorities say pulled a handgun on the officer. In a separate incident, another person was injured in a drive-by shooting, but it is not clear if it was related to the protests. The latest violence is prompting the police department to ask protesters not to assemble after dark.
We understand the anger, we understand that people want answers, and we understand that we've got a problem. But we're just asking people to be peaceful.
In a written statement, the Ferguson Police Department said, quote, "We are working to restore confidence in the safety of our community and our neighborhoods so that we may begin the healing process." Meanwhile, the parents of Michael Brown and community leaders are calling for calm while demanding answers.
I want some policemen to stand up and say that an unarmed young man should not be shot.
There are conflicting reports surrounding what led up to the shooting Saturday. Eyewitnesses are denying claims by police that there was a physical confrontation between Brown and the officer before Brown was shot. The officer has told investigators he was pushed into the patrol car as Brown tried to go for the officer's gun. Witnesses say Brown was shot in the street unarmed with his hands up. In a move that has further angered this outraged community, the police department has delayed releasing the officer's name because of ongoing threats.
The Ferguson Police Department says they will continue to cooperate fully in the investigation, which is being led by the St. Louis County Police Department, the FBI, and the Justice Department.
An eyewitness to the deadly shootings finally speaking. Dorian Johnson, a friend, was walking with Brown Saturday afternoon when it all happened.
He started to tell the officer that he was unarmed and that you should stop shooting me. Before he can get his second sentence out, the officer fired several more shots into his head and chest areas, and he fell dramatically in the fatal position. I did not hear once he yelled freeze, stop, or halt. It was just horrible to watch. It hurt him a lot. I see it in his eyes. It hurt him a lot. It was definitely like being shot like an animal. It was almost like putting someone to execution.
More Ferguson news, but this time it has to do with Ryan Ferguson. A judge dismissed former Boone County prosecutor Kevin Crane from a $100 million civil rights lawsuit filed by Ryan Ferguson. He was convicted in 2005 for killing Columbia Tribune sports editor Kent Heitholt. His conviction was vacated last year. He sued Crane and several other defendants for violating his civil rights. U.S. District Judge Nanette Lallery ruled Crane, now a Boone County judge, should be dismissed from the lawsuit.
The man accused of kidnapping, raping, and killing a 10-year-old Springfield girl is trying to distance himself from handwritten stories about child rape and sodomy allegedly found in his home. Prosecutors are trying to match Craig Michael Wood's handwriting to the writing on the child pornography stories. Wood is accused of raping and killing 4th grader Haley Owens in February after forcing her into his pickup truck while she walked home. Prosecutors are seeking the death penalty.
Columbia police arrested a man this morning for ramming his speeding motorcycle into a police car. 35-year-old David Singleton is accused of resisting arrest, careless and imprudent, assaulting a police officer, and possession of drugs. An officer was patrolling Blue Ridge Road when he saw Singleton driving his motorcycle more than 80 miles per hour in a 30. The report says Singleton refused to stop and then hit the police car.
If you've applied for coverage under the Affordable Care Act, you're going to want to listen up to this. Thousands of Missourians who applied for insurance under the Affordable Care Act may lose their coverage. Now, it's a simple paperwork problem with big consequences. KOMU8's Leanne Denyer joins us in the studio to tell us who needs to act and how quickly.
Almost 5,000 Missourians need to submit citizenship or immigration documents in order to keep their health care plans. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services sent letters urging applicants to file their necessary paperwork. Consumers must submit their documents by September 5th, or their coverage will end on September 30th. The Affordable Care Act allows the government to provide financial assistance to people in the country legally. Applicant citizenship and immigration forms need to be verified in order to qualify.
The easiest way to do this would be, for example, if you have a visa, to scan that visa in to your computer and upload it to healthcare.gov.
Anyone unsure of their status can check on healthcare.gov. Hard copies can also be mailed in. Companies are available locally if you have any questions about the application process or about obtaining insurance under the Affordable Care Act.
A man already in state prison for drug trafficking admitted to trying to get disaster benefits from the 2011 Joplin tornado. Federal prosecutors said 35-year-old Gary Mitchell Jr. pleaded guilty Monday to making false statements to the Federal Emergency Management Agency. He admitted on a FEMA assistance application the tornado destroyed his home. Mitchell owned the house, but it was rented to someone else.
The Columbia Fire Department responded to a fallen tree on a power line which caused a power outage at the corner of Rollins Road and Glenwood Avenue. The fallen tree caused a small fire, but the fire department put it out shortly after arriving on scene. Power was out for more than 1,000 residents for about 2 hours and caused problems with traffic lights on Stadium Boulevard. Water and Light removed the trees and restored power in about an hour.
Heavy rain is causing flooding in the Northeast, and the Border Patrol is looking into a crossing that went bad. KOMU8's Jenna Madaw has today's First Nation report.
A major chicken processing company issues a product recall. Purdue Farms is recalling more than 15,000 pounds of frozen chicken nuggets because of potential contaminants. The company says boxes of its Applegate Naturals chicken nuggets may contain pieces of plastic. U.S. Customs and Border Protection officials say 2 men died after allegedly attempting to cross the border in the trunk of a car. Officials say this vehicle arrived at the port of entry in San Diego around late afternoon yesterday. Officials detected something in the trunk when it went through the port's imaging system. Border officials found 2 men dead. Officials say both were Mexican citizens attempting to enter the country illegally. Heavy rains are forcing New Jersey residents from their homes. Unofficial totals show nearly 9 inches of rain fell between last night and this morning in southern New Jersey. Several homes were evacuated, with a local newspaper reporting a woman suffered broken ribs and a punctured lung when her basement walls collapsed. And that's your first look around the nation.
In world news, today, former Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak was in court to testify on his action against protesters during the 2011 uprising. He testified that he did not order the killing of protesters. The former leader was sentenced to life in prison in 2012 for the complicity in the deaths of demonstrators during the 2011 uprising that ended his 30-year rule. A Russian convoy said to contain humanitarian aid is on its way to eastern Ukraine. The operation has raised Western concerns of a Russian invasion in Ukraine. Moscow, though, has denied that claim, saying the convoy is aimed at helping residents of eastern Ukraine trapped in the fighting between Ukrainian forces and armed rebels. The 280-truck convoy is said to be carrying more than 2,000 tons of aid. Authorities are stepping up security to halt the prospect of protest marches against Pakistan's prime minister. Today, forces placed shipping containers and barbed wire across roads and tried to halt protesters. The protesters hope to force the prime minister to call an early election just a little more than a year after his landslide victory at the polls.
Could we just continue today's weather for about another 3 months? Let's send it over to Rosie for a check of the forecast.
I tell you what, Jim's setting me up to fail. Unfortunately, we can't, of course. We live in the state of Missouri. Weather's just going to have to change all year round. Let's talk about what's going on with our temperatures today. Most of us leapt above the 80-degree mark. Not a huge difference on temperatures that we saw yesterday afternoon, but we are just slightly warmer across most of the state than we were 24 hours ago. Now, we are going to be kind of on that train. We're looking at a slow warming trend as we're heading into this next weekend, but hey, for Jim, we'll hold it back for tonight. Still looks like another beautifully mild evening across mid-Missouri under mostly clear skies. Talking about the return to average heat and humidity for this time of the year and when our next chances of rain are working their way into the forecast. We'll give you all the latest details coming up in just a bit.
All right, you may have heard it's Shark Week, and coming up in your health, see how sharks may help fight cancer.
And you're looking live over the Columbia Regional Airport. Lots of sunshine out there. This is KOMU 8 News, first at 5. Coverage you can count on.